Yes, another drum trigger. But this goes and shows that there's not a certain way that you can build a drum trigger. Although I personally think you will get a different response from certain drum triggers. Softer the foam, the less responsive you're going to have. If you like doing the rock and really get the real loud sound, the softer the foam, the softer or the less sensitive that it is, and it's even harder to get some of the ghost notes. Thankfully, we have sensitivity and various adjustments on our drums that we can fix that. But in my opinion, you do get certain sounds out of drum triggers, and they do respond differently. So today I will be working on a different trigger, which we will get into in a moment. And I will say this, that tightening, or how tight you tighten your head or loose, it does affect the triggering. The tighter you tighten this thing, the less responsive you're going to get, just like on your acoustic drums. The tighter you get it, you're just going to get a ping with the acoustics, and where if you keep them looser, you're going to get more of the thump. Honestly, it works a lot like that. The tighter you tighten these, the more bounce you're going to get, but less responsive it's going to be. Now, such as ghost notes, you want that bounce to it. Now, the triggers that I will be working on today is simply made out of yoga mat. Now, the yoga mat works great, and personally, I think it triggers great. But the problem that I have out of yoga mat, which I'd rather have, I don't mind a little racket from where I'm at, but if you are in a setting that you need your drums very quiet, and after all, that's the purpose of electric drums, is the quietness of them. With the yoga mat, though, you do get, to me, more of a racket. But when you go to and that really don't make that much racket. I haven't got a cushion underneath it. All of it's just flopping, so we won't cancel that. But to me, it makes more racket than a regular mesh. It's more like it's just got a racket to it. This puts off a racket that kind of irritates me, but it's not a deal breaker. So I'm going to try these triggers today, which you will need yoga mat, pieces of yoga mat, a piezo transducer, but with wires. I've done used mine, so this is all I got to go by. And I'm going to use that for something else. And you will need some type of glue, hot glue I've used, and double stick tape I use on my piezo on the upside anyway. And I just glue this down to, this is a piece of paneling, as lightest piece as I can find, because the reason that I canceled out the big old metal plates is because of the weight that it had, and the rack, or the stand for the drum, just wasn't going to hold it. I was afraid it's going to break. So this is why we lighten the load. Okay. So I simply just glued the yoga mat down to your paneling or whatever you got. A little straight piece of cross works. I kind of wanted the black look, but now that I'm getting colors, it really don't matter. But you can use a straight piece of board, just about an inch thick, about a half inch, about an inch wide, and about a half inch or inch thick. And you can make your triggers to set on that as well, which I've had. But you're just going to have all of it open and see through the bottom. Just the preference thing there. After we get this glued down, we will take and either put your double stick tape on. And normally you turn the piezos up this way. although they do work different on certain drums. So you will glue that down. Now, just a little tip on cutting these out. I always just hold my piezo there and take a pair of scissors and cut it out to size. And after you do that, you put your double stick tape on top, and you will put another piece of yoga mat on top of that. And that is basically your drum trigger. So that's another drum trigger. We now have our drum triggers completed. On the snare one, I added the little piece of foam to hopefully to cut down on the ring. Now, first of all, we're going to test these and see if these things even work. I'm just using one drumstick, so. And you got a good little bounce there. Not too much. A lot of them, when you drop your drumstick, it just goes on forever, and that's where you get that double triggering or that little echo in it, if you will. And that's good. Going to do an Alabama song there. Okay, now to the foam piece that we put in there. Now I gave a demonstration earlier of the racket that it gave off, and we were trying to take away this ring. We'll be set a drumstick away from each one. You hear that ring? Irritating? Okay, drumstick away. On the snare with the 1/4 inch, about a medium dense foam. At least the ring's not there. You just get the little thump, and you're going to get that. Especially with these homemade or these DIY mesh heads that I've built. You can get the Remo or the Pearl heads. And honestly, it cuts down on the racket that I'm getting from these. I'm somewhat away from everybody, so this works for me. Doesn't build them, although you can get the mesh heads at a deal right now, even the Remos at a deal. If they ain't sold them out through Amazon and through eBay. I think Musicians Friends and 123 Music, all those kind of got a sale on Remo right now if it hadn't went off. But that said, okay, so that is the video on the triggering. And before I go, I have the old tom pad here, and I'm just going to center it up here, never mind the work junk there. I can live with that, providing that it will work on the rest of them. I don't mind the little white dot either. If it was a little bigger, it'd look like one of the drum heads. So, that said, that's it. That's all, folks.